How to Create a Glitch Monologues Season 7 Chapter 8. This is Episode 8 of How to Create a Glitch in the Matrix Monologues Season 7. In this episode, I will be talking about subjects or phenomenon which would be typically be referred to as parapsychology for the purpose of elaborating how such events might occur naturally in the ordinary course. To start out, when I say parapsychology, I am referring specifically to phenomenon which do not seem to fit an ordinary, common-sense explanation of events. You could just as easily refer to these events as miracles, or unexplained phenomenon. I am referring to events such as teleportation, retrocausal thoughts, telepathy and the like. Events which have no scientific explanation. They are a species of thought which defies the conventional. Throughout these podcasts, I have mentioned a number of such events, but with this episode one would like to elaborate the how in a little bit more detail. With this episode one would also like to make suggestions for possible avenues of inquiry, arising out of the explanations given for such events. The purpose of this is to explore how we might practically utilize the science so to speak of the unexplained. Let's start with telepathy. We have already discussed how thoughts arise as pairs, through the principle of polarity, as explained in previous podcasts. This means that for every thesis arising out of a given mind, there is an antithesis arising out of some other mind. The idea here is that there is fundamentally some kind of entanglement between the thoughts of one person and the thoughts of another. Relying upon this principle, it is possible to see that this linkage could be reoriented toward the expression of meaning. Likewise, we explored how in a previous episode the principle of deference is a one-way link between the minds of two interacting people created by physical expression. This link represents a kind of roadway from one mind to another, such that the receiver does not even realize they are a receiver. Now, gateways were explained as a two-directional link between two interacting minds. In this example, we are talking about information being exchanged between them. Now, it is possible to imagine that if a mind were to become sensitive enough to the entanglement posited by the principle of polarity, it might just produce such a gateway. And it is easy to see how, if this is an evolutionary process, such a sensitivity might be advantageous to an actor, rather like echolocation is to a bat. Next, I would like to discuss teleportation. This phenomenon arises out of the principle of continuity. As explained in a previous podcast, there is no true distinction between the physical and the mental. The stuff of meaning, of which both our thoughts and substance arise, is bound together by continuity in our actions and associations in our thoughts. If you imagine that the only thing separating you as you are, where you are, from you, as you are, where you are not, is a simple construction of continuity from one moment to the next, it becomes possible to see that as surely as we transit from one present to another, it is possible to transit from one location to another. To do so might only be as simple as eliminating one's contingency on a location, or opening a doorway in your mind. By eliminating from the possible one's presence in the here of the past, leaving only the there of the future, one makes the impossible possible. These are a few examples. But now the applications. It is possible to see that the social components of social interaction are merely avatars for deeper principles running through reality and the plate system. Imagine that it were possible to develop the means to monitor one's social participation through mirroring, or by one's orientation in a socially interacting group. Or imagine we could ask Google to tell us how much continuity there exists in our action. But the reality is that the technology already exists for these things. With the right minds involved, it would be possible to catalog the circumstances that originate the unconventional, to quantify the probabilities of the unreal. For example, with all the technology we have, a phone, an app, Google, we could develop a comprehensive technological system to look for the triggers of the absurd or unreal. We could develop a means to grasp at the errors within reality itself. Suffice it to say, every event has an explanation when one understands the uniformity of reality is mere symptom of a larger, more delicate architecture. That's the end of the podcast for today. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment and subscribe.